please welcome to the show our MUFON expert here, Jim Krug. How are you doing, Jim?
Hey, good, Frosty, Jenny. Thank you all for having me tonight. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you back and hopefully back for many more times.
I hope so. Thanks for the invite. We'll try to keep your listeners engaged here with some up-to-date MUFON news.
Yay.
Mm-hmm. So the big thing going on within MUFON is finally, after many years, they are replacing their antiquated CMS or case management system. It was built with an older computer programming language called Perl, which is very, very hackable. And so there have been concerns within the organization that somebody could come in, essentially hack into it, and either copy down a lot of confidential information or just destroy a lot of what's there. And so here at the start of next month, it is being replaced by a much more contemporary cutting-edge system called the Andrus system, ANDRUS. And so it's going to allow field investigators to be able to do a lot more with their cases. And then all field investigators across the United States and the world will have to do a couple hours of training through MUFON University to learn how to use the new system. And I'm kind of excited since I've been here last. I guess I should update my bio. I was promoted to chief investigator in all of Pennsylvania. And so that's just, thank you. That's just a couple states north of you all. But it's neat because I literally get to see every single case that comes in. Wow. And unlike other chief investigators who all had their own style and they were good, I really try to look at every single case before I send that out to state section directors that I used to be all across the state. And then they can either work it themselves or then they can send it to one of the field investigators underneath them. So I like to sort of take sneak peeks at the pictures or the videos and the testimony that are accompanying them. Overall, it's still very, very rare to have a straight up hoax through MUFON. Most people that submit are well-meaning, although I will say our field investigators have done a phenomenal job at identifying a lot of natural phenomenon. In fact, all summer long, Venus has been very, very heavily misidentified as a UFO. It's been in the western skies after sunset. It's been particularly bright. And so that's tripped off a lot of witnesses. Another thing that's actually tripped up witnesses, surprising here, is insects flying in front of Ring doorbell cameras. So right now on MUFON, they actually only have, if you go to report a UFO, they only really have one disclaimer, and they say, make sure before you file a report that it's not a SpaceX Starlink satellite, because I'm sure both of you have seen them. They look so crazy and odd.
Wild.
Yeah. And so I kind of joke, but only half joke. They need to add a disclaimer there for insects in front of Ring doorbell cameras. And so, and again, people mean well, and it does look really, really odd. But what a lot of people don't realize is the frame rate of the camera. It's good as far as home security goes, but it's also not like even the quality of a camera you would have on your cell phone. And so especially at night, low light conditions, these insects fly by up close, so they look out of focus, and then a lot of witnesses misidentify them as rods because of the frame drag. Instead of a single point, it kind of looks like a streak. Right. And so we've actually had a number of those, and our field investigators have also, this was pretty cool. A couple of the pictures I got this month looked really, really good. It was this odd pitch black daytime object, and one of our field investigators identified it as an escaped Mylar balloon, and he actually linked to a swath of sightings across the Philadelphia area at the same time, all from this misidentified Mylar balloon. We also had another one.
So that balloon was not traveling at 13,000 miles an hour.
No, it was not. It was just kind of floating around.
It was
there.
A floater. It's a floater.
It was a floater. We had one, another field investigator investigator correctly correlated another UFO sighting to a very bright meteor that showed up over Pennsylvania. But just so your listeners know, not all of them can be totally explained. Just today, I'll read this one to you. It just came across our desk. Are you both familiar with Pennsylvania's Roswell, they call it, the Kecksburg UFO sighting?
Yes, we are familiar with Kecksburg.
Excellent. So this one just came in today. So in MUFON, for those who aren't familiar, a lot of people will report up-to-date UFO sightings, but sometimes people will report what are called historical cases. So maybe something happened to them when they were young, and either they were too scared or embarrassed to report it, or they didn't really think much about it at the time, but over many, many years, it had just kind of lingered. And so just kind of reading through the cases and assigning them today, this one just came to us today, and I'm allowed to read the actual description. I'm not going to read the witness's name or break confidentiality, but this came from Westmoreland County, which is in southwest Pennsylvania by Pittsburgh. And so here is the case. Short description, fireball in sky. Says, I wanted to report this because I'm 71 and the other witness, my mother, is deceased. I always thought this occurred in summer until I saw a TV show saying it was December, but the weather was unusually warm. My mother and I were sitting on the back porch steps waiting for my dad to get home from work. He would get home between 4:30 and 5 p.m. We lived in a one-story house. There was no sound. Suddenly, we saw a large ball of fire glowing right over the top of our house. It was coming from the east and headed southwest with a gradual turn towards the south. My mother sent my college-age brother to go to the path of the object to check if anything fell off of it. My brother never saw it. He was in the house. He was just sent to check on the situation. He didn't find anything. There were no trees in the way, just big fields. We were told it was a meteor on the news. It definitely went east to southwest. I reported this to someone in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, who just blew me off. He was on a radio show. He wanted to have my brother call in. And the witness says, I just wanted a record of this, mainly the direction it took. Myself, my mother and brother have almost photographic memories. This is why I remember the details. And as I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, boy, oh boy, this sounds a lot like the Kecksburg UFO crash. And so I checked the date of the event, and it's December 9th, 1965, which was the same exact time. And so the witness for this one obviously didn't attach any photos, videos. They didn't have any videos back in the 1960s of something so fast. But I dispatched this to one of our best field investigators in that part of the state. And I said, hey, I don't want to get too excited, but I think there's a chance that this could have been a direct eyewitness to the Kecksburg UFO crash. Wow. And so the only thing that's unusual about it is eyewitnesses throughout the Midwest said that object was zigzagging. It looked like a bright green fireball, which wouldn't zigzag like a fireball or a meteor. And it came into Pennsylvania from the west. This witness is saying it came from the southwest. It came from the east and moved southwest. But I myself have actually had a really interesting MUFON case with a witness who described seeing with his older sister after school a similar acorn-shaped craft that actually flew from central PA towards Pittsburgh to the west. So either it was the famous Kecksburg crash, and at the last minute there was a direction change, and then it retreated on its path before crashing outside Pittsburgh. Or another possibility, this could have actually been some type of advanced U.S. military technology, something reverse engineered that the Nazis were working on during Operation Paperclip. The U.S. military may have been testing it a few days. A number of witnesses throughout southwestern Pennsylvania saw it. And then on one day in December, one actually crashed. So those are the types of cases that we get, which is pretty cool. And then one visual just to show you all, Frosty, am I as a humble guest, allowed to share my screen at all?
Yeah, you should be. Let me know if you have any issue. Okay, got it.
Yes, found it. And so what's really, really neat, let me share my entire screen, and this will only take a minute. So I am also a member of MUFON's ERT team, the Experiencer Resource Team. And so these are the type of cases that deal with a more hardcore situation, kind of like alien abductions. And so can you all see my screen right now? Can you see this eyewitness drawing?
We sure can.
Excellent. So I had a series of interviews with a really fascinating witness, and what she described was highly unusual. She was laying on her couch late at night, and she was watching a UFO documentary on her phone through YouTube. And at one point, with her fingers, she tried to spread out to zoom in because she thought that she saw writing on the underside of one of the crafts. And she said she suddenly tried to sit up very, very quickly, unexpected somewhat. She just tried to sit up and adjust. She said as she sat up, she inadvertently minimized YouTube, went to camera, and went to selfie mode. And then to her shock, saw two grayish yellow extraterrestrials right behind her at the corner of this couch right here, essentially looking at her screen with her.
They were watching the documentary with her?
Yes. And so she herself immediately turned around, saw nothing there, looked back at her phone, and then they were just gone.
Wow.
And I found it fascinating because one thing that I've kind of gotten into a little bit based on a number of cases is multi-wavelength identification of UFOs and extraterrestrials. So a number of people using night vision goggles, not only the older ones that kind of glow green, but the newer, fancier military ones that are phosphorus that kind of glow white. They've been able to report seeing UFOs they cannot see with the naked eye. And so I do think there's a good chance our eyes are tuned to such a narrow band of the spectrum that there's a really good chance, and remote viewers report this too, that outside of the visible part of the spectrum, there's a wealth of activity going on with extraterrestrials. And so it was a fascinating case, and talking to her more, it turned out her own father was in military intelligence. He himself was a lifelong experiencer. And then peeling back layers of the onion, she was as well. And so I found the account fairly credible, and I thought, isn't it neat? Maybe there was a chance there were two extraterrestrials beside her, and they really hadn't anticipated the sudden movement of her. And so for just a split second, her phone camera picked them up before they either disappeared or activated some type of cloaking, and then she couldn't see him at all. So there's been a lot of neat stuff going on in MUFON, Pennsylvania over the past month.
Wow.
Excellent.
Thank you, Jim. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
But if you got a ring door light, bell light, and you see some crazy stuff on it, it's probably just a bug.
Yeah.
There's at least a good chance of that. I've seen ones which are pretty cool. Even from where I live, people have actually been able to record like meteor explosions in their Ring doorbell cameras. But a lot of times it ends up being bugs. And just add one last thing to what Frosty said earlier about the Department of War releasing these UFO files now. I'm actually part of a special MUFON team where we're getting assigned these files. And so we have to look through the Department of War releases. We get assigned about 10 files at a time just to see if there's anything credible. And most of them are fairly mundane, but I have gotten some good ones. So far, at least, most of the good ones that come from the military aren't from them trying to see UFOs. They actually come from war zones like Afghanistan, where a lot of their satellites are just doing routine surveillance to try to keep the troops safe. And then they inadvertently pick up a UFO. So if you have the time to dig, there have been a few neat ones in there.
Excellent. Thank you again, Jim. And we're going to have you back on for a full episode here in the future, but we look forward to your next update.
Okay, thanks, guys. Have a wonderful August, and I'll see you and all your listeners in September. Thanks everyone.
Jim.
Excellent.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.